Okay, welcome, my dear friends. So today's the last class of our Pteridophyta, my dear friends. So in this Pteridophyta, Stelar evolution is one of the most important topic. Today's our eminent resource person, Dr.A.Kavitha Madam Garu, Assistant Professor, Department of Botany, RBVRR Women's College, Autonomous, Hyderabad. Madam, please welcome and share your screen. Start your session, madam.
Okay, sir. Thank you very much. Good morning to all the participants who are there in this meeting. Thank you very much for your attending this session. I'm going to start with the Stelar evolution in pteridophytes. So from which either one or two questions will be frequently asked questions every time. So please listen carefully. I'm just sharing my screen. Right. So this is about the Stelar evolution in pteridophytes. Now, why we are focusing on this Stelar evolution? Because we are talking about the pteridophytes, which are commonly called as the vascular cryptogams. That is the lowermost plants. Okay, so these are the end of the lowermost plants, right? So these plants, they have been developing the vascular tissues for conducting of the food and the water. So these are the xylem and the phloem. These are the vascular tissues which are first developed within this plant. Now, so these are these are considered as the vascular cryptogams, and they have successfully invaded the land and reproduced mainly by means of spores. So I told you, majority of the pteridophytes, they are land plants. Okay, so we are calling them as a seedless vascular plants. They does not produce any seeds. They only reproduce with the help of the spores, and they have successfully invaded they are the first land plants, we can say that. Okay, apart from bryophytes. Now, so what are these vascular plants? They show a number of epimorphs. That is, what are the characteristic features they possess. They have lignified secondary walls. They have the sclerent haematous tissue. Already we discussed this in the tiers of the stem or rhizome of the genera. Tracheary elements, we call them as xylem tissue. The seeds elements, the cells of phloem tissue are present. There is the presence of endodermis, a single layer endodermis, independent and long-lived sporophyte. The dominant phase, what we studied in the pteridophyte, it was a sporophyte, and it is an independent. And the sporophytic leaves, that is the sporophylls, which are possessing the sporangia and the roots. So these are some of the most important characteristic features of the cryptogams of these pteridophytes having these vasculature. Now, first of all, what do you mean by a stele? So we are discussing about stellar evolution. What do you mean by the stele? The central vascular cylinder. Okay, whenever we are going to take the transverse section of a root or a rhizome or a stem, in the transverse section, we come across this vascular cylinder. The central vascular cylinder, which is accompanying the xylem and the phloem. So that tissue or that part of this anatomy, we call it as the stele. Central vascular cylinder, with or without pith and endodermis, and separating it from the cortex region, we are referring that to as the stele. Now, so in these pteridophytes, we come across so many types of steles. So generally the steles here we discuss like eustele condition, dictyostelic condition, siphonostelic and protostele. And among the protostele, it is called as mixed protostele, plectostelic condition, actinostelic condition, haplostelic, and a simple siphonostele or solenostele, a simple dictyostele or polycyclic condition. So these are some of the stellar conditions what we observe in the vascular plants. Now we'll discuss about what do you mean by the protostele. Now, so the vasculature, that is the vascular cylinder, which is going to consist of a central core of xylem and completely surrounded by the phloem. That we call it as a protostele condition, and it is the most primitive and the simplest type of the steels. So the different types of protosteles what we come across are haplostele condition, actinostele, plectostele, mixed protostele, and polystele condition. Now, what is haplostele condition? So you can look into this diagram here. The central path, protostele, and into what does mean by protostele? There will be a central xylem and surrounded by the phloem vascular cylinder. That becomes the protostele. So here in the haplostele condition, a protostele is going to consist of a central core of xylem surrounded by a layer of phloem. So this can be observed in the example of Selaginella and Glycina, and also in the Coelotum rhizome tears. So please note down these examples which may be asked in your exam. Basically, in these from Stelar evolution point of view, examples are mostly always to be repeated. So please focus on this. Haplostelic condition, which is the stele condition observed in Selaginella stem and Coelotum rhizome tears. Next, actinostele. So already we discussed this in the Lycopodium serratum. Lycopodium. What is this Lycopodium actinostelic condition? A central core of xylem will be there. This xylem, it will be getting radiated in the form of a star-shaped structure. So these are called as the xylem radiating strands. So when we observe the xylem, it appears in the form of a star shape. And at the tips of these radiating arms shows the presence of the protoxylem. So this is the protoxylem. You can look into this here. So this type of protostele condition is called as actinostele. So the best example here we can quote is Lycopodium serratum and also Coelotum stem. Coelotum rhizome, it is haplostelic condition. Coelotum stem and even the Lycopodium serratum, the stem of Lycopodium also shows the presence of actinostelic condition. Actinostelic, I am repeating this once again. What is this actinostelic condition? Xylem, which is present in the center, it will be radiating in form of a star-shaped appearance with the protoxylem at the radiating arms. Now, next moving on to the another type of protostele condition that is called as plectostele. Even this we observed in the Lycopodium, one of the species called as clavatum. Now, what is this here? Xylem, the xylem tissue here will be arranged in the form of the plates. So you can look into this here. This is one plate of xylem. This is another plate of xylem. Plectostele. Plecto refers to the plate-like arrangement. Okay. So the xylem tissue, the xylem vessels here, they are in the form of, they are arranged parallelly and in the form of the plates. And these plates are surrounded by the phloem. So this type of protostelic condition is referred to as plectostele. And the example is Lycopodium clavatum. Next, mixed protostele. Now, what is this mixed protostele here? Mixed. That means the xylem and the phloem, they both are uniformly distributed in the stellar region. Whereas here, the xylem elements, they are breaked up into small groups like this. So this condition is called as a mixed protostele condition. And this mixed protostele is considered to be as the advanced type of stele among the protostele. I repeat this once again. Protostele is a primitive one. I'm talking about the protostele, which is a primitive. I am going back again. This is a primitive and the simplest stele. So you can look into this here. I have highlighted. Okay. So these protosteles are of the following types. Okay. So among these following types, this mixed protostele is the advanced among all these protosteles. And it is considered to be as a transitional type between the protostele and the siphonostele, the next stellar type. Okay. So what is mixed protostele? It is the uniformly distribution of xylem and phloem in the stellar region, where the xylem vessels are, the xylem elements are break into small groups like this. So this type of stele can be observed in the species of Lycopodium called Lycopodium cernum. So, okay, in Lycopodium cernum, mixed protostelic condition. In Lycopodium clavatum, plectostelic condition. And in Lycopodium serratum, actinostelic condition. So these three species are very, very important in stellar evolution, considered to the Lycopodium. So you can note down these points. In species Lycopodium serratum, actinostelic condition. In Lycopodium clavatum, plectostele. And Lycopodium cernum, it is mixed protostele. And this mixed protostele, you can make a note, it is the advanced type among all the protostelic conditions. And it is considered to be as a transitional type between siphonostele and the protostele. That is, it is called as, it is regarded to be as the intermediate. Next, a polystelic condition, we observed it in the Selaginella, where we can see the presence of several steles which are arranged in parallel manner. That is, this is one protostelic condition. This is another protostele. So these protosteles are poly. Poly means many. Presence of many polysteles, which is called as presence of many protosteles. So this is one protostele here. This is another protostele. More than one, if the stele is the stellar region consisting of more than one protostele, then such a type of protostelic condition is called polystele. So this is an example we can observe in the Selaginella. So this is about the first type of stellar evolution, the stele what we observe in the pteridophytes. Now, next we are moving on to the siphonostelic condition. Now, what do you mean by siphonostele here? Medulated stele, that is stellar region with the central pith region, is referred to as siphonostele. Siphon means a tubular, okay, a tube-like structure in the center of the stele. That condition is referred to as siphonostele. Stele with a central pith region. Now, so central, what is this pith region? It is an empty space which is in the central region of the stellar region. So it is surrounded by xylem and the phloem outside. Now, so these siphonosteles again, they are classified into simple siphonostele and the solenostele. Now, so what is the simple siphonostele? We refer to as modified protostele with a central pith region. So look into this point here, modified protostele. So what is a protostele? Protostele is having central core of xylem surrounded by phloem. That is a protostele. Attached to this protostele, if there is a central pith region, then we call it as a siphonostelous condition. This is a simple siphonostele. And in this pith region, whatever we're discussing here, in the simple type, it is of parenchymatous type. That is, the tissue which is present in the center, it is oftenly the parenchymatous type. Now, what are these simple? There are again, the siphonostele is classified into two types, ectofloic siphonostele and amphifloic siphonostele. Now, you can look into this here. This is of ectofloic siphonostele. Now, what does this mean? Ectofloic. Ecto means outside. Floic represents the phloem. So what does this mean? Phloem will be present in the stellar region. The phloem will be outside the xylem. That term we represented as ectofloic. Okay. So siphonostele. What is siphonostele? Presence of central pith region surrounded by xylem and the phloem. Okay. Now, so here, this ectoploic siphonoid stele, this is commonly observed here in the osmunda. So you can observe this picture here. This is the xylem. The xylem will be in the form of a concentric rings. That means more than 1 or 2 rings of xylem elements are present surrounding this pith region, and outer to that is the phloem region. So the phloem, then followed by pericycle, and then the endodermis. Okay, so in Osmunda botricum, you can see this presence of ectoploic siphonostellic condition. Next, the second type of simple siphonostele, that is the amphiploic siphonostele. Now, what is this amphiploic? So here also, so siphonostele means presence of the central pith region. You can look into this here, the central pith region. Now, xylem here, amphi refers to just like a sandwich. We call a sandwich, you know, sandwich that is in between two bread slices will have a stuff in the center. That we call it as the sandwich. So amphi means it refers to the sandwich. Now, what does it mean? Xylem is, so when we talk about the vascular cylinder here, xylem and phloem arrangement, xylem is surrounded both externally and internally by the ring of phloem. That means to say, we can see the presence of inner xylem and inner phloem, external xylem and external phloem. So I repeat this once again. This is the pith region. Okay. Now, surrounding this pith, there is a layer of phloem, and then surrounding it will be the xylem and the outer phloem. And then again will be the external xylem elements again. Okay, that means to say here, the xylem. Okay, you can look into this, the point of what I'm showing you here. Xylem will be in the center, which will be sandwiched by 2 phloem strands. And this is the central pith region. So this type of siphonostele is representing as amphiploic siphonostele, which is observed in Ediantum as well as in Marsilia also. Okay, that means the xylem and phloem, they are being surrounded by each other externally as well as internally. Okay, so whereas ectoploic, we can see only a single ring of phloem, whereas xylem will be in the concentric rings. Amphiploic, xylem and phloem together having several rings. That is, xylem will be sandwiched by 2 phloem strands. I hope this is clear up to this point. Siphonostele condition. Okay, this is about siphonostele, and that too, this is about simple siphonostele with reference to ectoploic and amphiploic. Ectoploic siphonostele, example you can observe in Osmunda, whereas amphiploic siphonostele, the best examples are in Ediantum and the Marsilia. Now, the second type of siphonostele here, which is referred to as solenostelic condition or solenostele. Now, what is the solenostele? This can be observed in Marsilia rhizome. If you observe the transverse section of Marsilia, you come across this. Now, what is this solenostelic condition? Siphonostele, what I told you, having the central pith region, and xylem and phloem will be surrounding this pith region, right? Now, if this siphonostele, if it is possessing a leaf gap at one particular point, or if it is going to consist of a leaf trace, then such a type of stele is considered as solenostelic condition. Solenostelic condition. Okay. I repeat this. Solenostele means a siphonostele having the presence of a leaf trace or the leaf gap, which is emerging from the pterygium and passing the endodermis. This type of stele is referred to as solenostele condition. And this can be observed both in ectofloic siphonostele and at the same time amphifloic siphonostele also. So these are the diagrams you can see here. This is a simple ectofloic siphonostele, where this is the pit, this is the xylem and phloem surrounding the region. So this is the amphifloic, where you can see the concentric ring. This is the xylem having surrounded by two outer phloem as well as the inner phloem. And here the presence of the leaf trace. Okay, right. So this is about the siphonostelic condition, which is divided into simple siphonostele and solenostele. Simple siphonostele is again of ectofloic type and amphifloic type. Now, next we are moving on to the another type of stele that we call it as dictyostele. So a siphonostele and what is a siphonostele? Siphonostele is surrounded by xylem and phloem. Okay. What is a solenostele? Solenostele and only one leaf gap at one point. That I'm calling it a solenostele.